Hello internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion. Those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book, and today's book is going to be Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is the first in a series. The second book, if you may have heard, Thunderhead, has just been released, so you know you have two books if you decide to enter into this series. Now this is about a utopic society that is run by a computer called the Thunderhead. In this utopic society, disease, death, all of those really hardship, suffering, like travesties that we as a common humanity, modern day humanity know are completely gone, annihilated. Now, to make a distinction, the people can still die, like they can like fall off of buildings and their bodies stop working. However, science in this world has been altered in a way that bodies can be brought back from the dead. Because of this and because of the worries of overpopulation, now that death really doesn't exist even if you jump off of a 20-foot building, which in this world has become a sort of sport, a community called the Scythe or the Scythedom was created when these issues were slowly starting to begin. Now, the Scythedom was created as an international organization of people who would be in charge of culling the rest of society. They have to tally up a certain number of dead people just to keep the percentage down for every new birth. There are few going away. Now, it's up to the Scythe how they kill or who they kill or like whatever, but they just have to fulfill some certain guidelines, make sure that they have a certain kill count, and if you are killed by a scythe, you are not allowed to be brought back from the dead. So you are officially dead, not dead-ish. Now, this book follows two candidates for the Scythedom. They are picked up by one professional scythe for different reasons, because this man sees potential in both of them. One is a girl and one is a boy. Now, throughout this whole thing and them learning, they end up being backed into a corner, and they are told that by the end of their little apprenticeship, only one can become an apprentice scythe and the other will be scythe. They will be reaped. They will be done. So now it is a battle to the death of each trying to prove their worthiness over the other for the sake of survival. Throughout this, we get to see the corruption of the Scythedom and how humanity still leaks in. The interesting part about the outer arcing portion of humanity, it is all run by this computer called Thunderhead, so it is very hard for like world power to be corrupted because Thunderhead is a smart, intelligent AI that watches out for humanity. But it is unlike that in the Scythedom. That is something separate from the Thunderhead, and Thunderhead has no control over it. So we get to see the toils of humanity, their corruption, their fear, all of that still propagated even in this world where things like death don't really exist, at least not in the same light as it would in other worlds. So what I really like about this book is the discussions of utopia. I really like books that have a utopia society, because then we get to see what it sort of would look like and what kind of morals these people would have, because you realize in this book that while these people probably look like you, they don't think like you, because they've never had to go through the suffering of truly losing a dead one, of truly dying, of like war and famine. If there is any poverty in this world, it is the choice of the person. They do it as a game to kind of pretend that they're poor. So it's like you never really have to suffer in this world unless you're like Byronic and you want to. So it's very interesting to see how these people work and how their morals stand in a world where suffering isn't really a thing that exists, and the biggest fear you have is that one day you may be scythe, but you're potentially going to live forever, and the scythe count for people that are reaped is very, very low. Like this gleaning, which is what I think they refer to it as, like when you take in the statistical ratios of how many they're supposed to glean per scythe and how many scythes there are, your chance of like being gleaned is maybe like 1%. And a lot of it just has to do with whether or not how the Scythe decides to glean people. Like, you know, it's just, it's an interesting concept. It is an interesting thing to see. I definitely like seeing these two main characters and how they differed from each other. I like us getting introduced to them, us being like sort of explained why this Scythe would choose these two as their apprentice, and seeing how different they were. And I like their companionship. I think my favorite part about this book is, even though they now have to compete to the death on which one will become the official Scythe at the end of the day, which one will be gleaned, they never once try to turn on each other. They stay comrades. They realize, yes, at the end of the day, one of us is going to die, but we're not going to actively fall into this sort of corruption. We're not going to actively try to destroy the other in the sakes of getting ahead. They both really care about each other. They have a friendship and they have a camaraderie that goes past this stupid little competition that they're forced to due to corruption. And I really like seeing that, because I really like, it's so stereotypical that as soon as a competition is involved, everyone's like stabbing everyone in the back. And I just like having these two that came together. They weren't like really involved in each other. They were very vastly different people, but when it came to this situation where they are told only one of you are going to survive at the end of the day, they didn't go out of the way to make the other's life horrible or to make them appear worse for the sake of themselves. It's a very complex little relationship, but I like how it went down that path rather than some normal stereotypical paths where they're just gonna hate on each other the whole way through. So definitely a lot better there. If I had to describe these two characters, the girl character is very A-type character, and then the guy is a very B-type character. By this I mean the girl is very precise. She likes things done in a certain way. She's very strict on her guidelines, and the guy is just a little more laid back in his perspective of the world. They're very smart and intelligent people, and I can see why they were both chosen to be Scythes, but I like how we're seeing that a Scythe could be like two different types of people and they both be really good at their job. I also like how we get to see like different methods of scything, and that there is no specific method for any scythe, and it all depends on the character of the person and the scythe themselves. So there's a lot of conversations in here that are really good. One's about utopia, one's about corrupt systems, one's about like how people can react differently given the profession, and how their morals differ day to day, and what they say is okay so that they can live with themselves every day. So I would suggest you go out and you pick up Scythe if you like conversations, because this book, while it does have like action in some chapters, isn't really about the action, but is more about this conversation of morals, of corruption, of these different people and how they handle this same thing that they have to do, and how corruption worms its way in any system. No matter how altruistic it seems at first, it definitely gets there in some way. So I definitely like this book. I'm thinking of buying the second one, even though I won't have a matching floppy paperback, and you know how I feel about that. But the reason why I think I want to buy the second one right now is because for some reason in the first editions of these books, there's at least like one major typo, because I heard that in Scythe in the first edition there was one major typo, and then I saw that in Thunderhead there was one major typo, and I kind of like when my books have typos. Like, I don't want like 20,000 typos on every page, but if there's like one or two, it kind of makes me laugh. So I like when my books have at least one or two, because I like seeing that everyone's fallible and everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But I think I'm gonna buy it just for that. That's a stupid reason to buy the next book, but I thought I would share it here, that I'm potentially going to buy a book that has a grammar mistake, and I know it does, simply so that I can read the book and then laugh at the editor, because I want to go into the publishing industry. And if you can hire this guy who makes a typo in the first edition, then why couldn't you hire me? I'm just saying, there's still hope for me yet. So Scythe is a really great book. Definitely look out for this series. you're probably gonna love it if you're into like urban fantasy, utopia, conversations, philosophy type books. I think you should give it a shot. Even if you're not, I think you should maybe give it a shot, because sometimes there's just things that aren't your norm but you end up liking. So yeah, if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those buttons down below, and goodbye, internet.